Hey, what is up, everyone? It's the guy here, and welcome back to another episode of Themindhere, the bi-weekly podcast where I talk about new knowledge I've learned, projects I'm working on, and current events. Topics may be random, but I hope that with each episode you can come away with a fresh perspective on the universe. Welcome to all of you who are here for the first time. If you like my content and want to see more, please consider subscribing. All right, before we get into the main ideas, the main topics for this episode, I want to take a little detour and talk a little bit about my personal progress and just give a renewed commitment to you all. Part of this podcast is what I talked about in the intro of the new knowledge I learned, so discussing a little bit about the various areas of interest I'm looking into, and also updates on projects that I'm working on. These two areas, unfortunately, they have been lacking, and I've noticed, and maybe if you look back throughout the podcast, you might be able to see, but throughout the episodes, I felt that starting the beginning of this year, of 2021, I felt that I haven't been performing at the top level that I wanted to. Researching the areas that I was interested in, I feel like I've lacked a little bit in that. And also with the projects I'm working on, I've definitely taken a step back, especially since transitioning to learning, transitioning from making music as on the side to learning about blockchain technology and various other technologies on the side. That has definitely impacted it. And by nature of transitioning to more of a learning model, it's definitely going to cut back on projects. But overall, I don't feel that I've been at the top of my game. I've been distracted consistently with whether that be staying up and watching YouTube or pouring tremendous amounts of time into video games, virtual worlds like Minecraft, for example. So those areas... it's a process that I'm going through, learning about what is working and what isn't. There have been some changes that I've made, but I feel that I haven't really stumbled upon a true shift in organization or model, mental model that has enabled me to get to a solution. So I'm still searching for that, and I'll be providing some progress or some updates on my progress about this. If I find that some method worked well, then I will share this with you guys in hopes that maybe some of the lessons I learned can help you speed up the process if you are going through a similar process or if you end up going through something like this in the future. With low motivation and sort of inspiration to move forward and do things that would be truly inspiring instead of just settling down with the things that sort of distract time and distract from reality. So maybe that's something that I'll need to take a deeper look into. But whatever it is, I've made a renewed commitment, and I'm speaking sort of publicly here about this renewed commitment. So that's something that I'll be working towards. And hopefully with the various projects that I'm working on, I am working on projects, but they are for the various clubs and organizations that I'm involved in. So they're not really projects that are presentable. However, I might be able to go through some aspects of it, not like it's specifically what I did for that, but the overall maybe software that I was using for a solution or some other examples like that. So maybe some updates there. I'll tinker around a little bit, but that's the progress area here. For the most part here, I'm going to start with the current events and my thoughts, as that's something that I can still provide some kind of feedback and some kind of content without having that, without needing to, I guess, it's sort of a substitute for the new knowledge I've been trying to learn and the projects that I'm working on. Definitely, I'll try to bring more of those in, but for now, we're going to have more just comments on current events and thoughts that come up. So I appreciate everyone here for watching. everyone here that's watching for supporting me throughout this process. I've got to make sure that I bring out better content and more things out there, and just overall improve myself and my ability to execute. So that's my renewed commitment to you all and to myself. But back to the main content of this episode. One of the two ideas that I wanted to touch upon. The first idea was about cancel culture. And I'm sure that this is something that has come up of late. It might be sort of a theory that I have. It might be that because we're all currently in a semi-quarantine status where we're not really going outside too much, we're staying inside as much as possible, we have relatively a lot of time on hand, and sometimes we use that personal experience from this time period that I've been distracting myself from reality through various distractions. I gravitated towards watching YouTube videos and playing games, but some people might go with another form of distraction, such as social media or something like that. And what I've noticed, what prompted me to talk about this topic and brought this to my attention was when I found out that one of my favorite YouTubers, Technoblade, he had this Twitter drama where a joke that he put on Twitter relatively 4 years ago or something like that. But something in the past that he did was suddenly resurfaced by whoever it may be, malicious actors or just people that had time on their hands to poke through whatever he posted from his past and try to, I guess, tarnish his reputation. And for the most part, a good majority of the Twitter base that was involved here thought that this was just stupid to bring this up from his past and to criticize him from his past perspective in such a light. However, Technoblade took this and actually he took down some of his older videos, and they were some of the videos that I enjoyed watching and what got me to really like his content. So that affected me, but it made me reflect a little bit about what was happening here in the background. What were the social mechanisms going on here? And this brought me to cancel culture, the idea of unearthing some action that we don't like from a public figure or a celebrity figure, and then sort of just saying that whatever that is associated with them can no longer be accepted. Sort of that instant rejection of like, you hit this criteria and all of a sudden nothing matters anymore from the past or what you've done. And I find issue with this because with humans, first of all, celebrities are humans and humans make mistakes. And with our past standards, you can't hold our past selves to current standards, because then the past self may not represent the future self. And when we learn, we've all done stupid things in the past, but we are different people than from who we are in the past. So to say that our current self cannot be accepted due to something from the past, that sort of holds celebrity figures to inhuman standards, and that's something that I can't accept. So that's one issue that I had with this culture of looking back through people, whatever people said, whether that be even current things. Let's say someone said something that was outrageous today, but then 5 years down the line, they've done everything to change, and yet people are like, oh, nope, you did this 5 years ago, we're still not going to trust you, you're still canceled, right? Just instantly saying that everything associated with them is bad because of this one thing. Humans are more complex than that. We have different various traits that you can learn from. Some people have traits that are still good, even though other areas might be lacking or we might not like. And that's fine. We are different people, complex people, and we have a lot of things that are varying in all sorts of spectrums. So to have this binary state of canceled or not canceled is quite toxic, to put it frankly. And it's something that I've sort of noticed through social media. It might be some facilitation from these platforms, right? Because it's easy to look at this and then go like, oh, but you're a public figure, we should hold you to a higher standard on these public social platforms. And it's a lot easier these days to become a public figure on these platforms compared to compared to pre-internet days, right? But like, just for example, on social media, even on LinkedIn, I've seen these sort of binary or toxic comments where it's either that, oh, I fully support this, anyone else who disagrees is etc., etc., some expletive or something like that, or if you agree with this, then you are blah blah blah. In that binary switch of, if you agree, then you are not, then we don't accept you, or if you don't agree, then we don't accept you. That the binary switch on these platforms is something that's really ruining the sort of fabric of our society, of a little bit the trust that holds our society together. And another thing that I guess I looked into and questioned here was the role of the platforms. If the platforms should have done something to avoid this, or if there were mechanisms that the platforms should have better designed to avoid this, or if this is something that was inevitable with this sort of platform area where everyone can speak out their own thoughts. There's likely no correct answer here, and a lot of theories can be pushed around, but ultimately, at least for me, I'm not sure, but they are important questions to think about. And these are something that should likely be answered in the future if we want to progress our society forward. These are things that we observe now that are something that we don't want. So then when we know what we don't want, we can then target some ways that we can improve the broken systems or the broken behaviors that we have. And just on a personal level, from the broader perspective or the broader patterns that I've noticed, just avoid the binary switching of if someone says something that you don't like, you instantly say everything that they do is bad. Because if you believe that, then you will see everything they do as bad, and to you will truly think that they are a horrible person. But the reality is likely not the case, and they have quite a bit more complexity behind it, whether it be behind the decision that led up to the action that you don't like, or just overall in general about their person. Maybe some aspect of them aren't too savory, but some aspects you would find and admire and want to replicate or learn from. So keep that in mind when you interact on a social media platform as something that we want to avoid to contribute to, and that's the cancel culture that I've noticed. But speaking of media, I'm going to talk a little bit about more of the traditional media. Something that I saw, sort of, because this was a YouTube video that had a clip from CNBC when they talked about Tesla and Elon Musk. So sort of traditional media with television, but I saw it on YouTube. Anyways, this was a CNBC anchor, and he was commenting about Tesla's decision to invest in Bitcoin and sort of move things to accept cryptocurrency. And he made the comment that why would someone as successful and well-off as Elon do something so risky with his assets? And from a, I guess, sort of modern practicality standpoint, it would make sense. Why would you sacrifice this comfort zone you're in to do something that is wholly unknown and what some people think is extremely volatile or just a complete scam, right? However, if we look at this, how did Tesla get to this place of success in the first place? They took risks. So to say that taking risks now is crazy is sort of hypocrisy at its finest, to put it simply. And I'm pretty sure this anchor would have, given like 10 years ago, would have said like, it's crazy. Why would Elon put his money into this startup rocket company and a startup electric car company? right? When he made the success off of PayPal or his previous endeavors. But we have to understand here that this risk-taking is fundamental to their success. And furthermore, businesses, the idea of that, like, ooh, why would this business take this this super risky move when their profits could be at stake? The purpose of a business is not to make profit, despite what you may think or what the mainstream finance media or mainstream capitalism culture has taught you. Businesses, yes, in some sense, they do have to survive in the sense of making a profit or at least covering their operational costs. However, the purpose of a business is not to make profit. If the only thing you do is to make profit, then you shouldn't exist as a business. You should bring some value to society. You get profit because of the value you bring. You have to have some sort of purpose and some niche you had to have served in order to get that profit. The profit is it's a side product of the value that you bring. So taking that first off, you businesses aren't there to make profit. They are there for some sort of purpose, and that profit comes in as a side product of a good service or a good product that you bring value to society with. All right, so that's the first point. Now, if we take that into consideration and generalize that to even ourselves, we exist to do something that we think have purpose, right? We don't exist to simply consume food and drink water and breathe in air. We do that as an operational thing to survive and facilitate our purpose. So we can't measure ourselves based off of the amount of food we consume or the water we drink. That's ridiculous. So that's the first thing we have to look at. Now, if we take a look at the purpose now, we've established that people exist for a purpose, businesses exist for a purpose. So now, in the sense of that, if you are at a state where you're going along fine, but you're not making any progress towards your purpose, then why would you exist, right? So then if there's an existential crisis where you aren't fulfilling your purpose, it would make much more sense to take this risky move and go into an area to explore something that would make forward progress in your purpose. That would maybe sacrifice your profits or some area of your operational life. But these risk takings, these risky maneuvers that you might see from startup companies or from people that are doing things the unconventional way, it might seem risky to you if it's from an operational point where you might be, you have, I guess, a higher chance of not making it through. But to some people, if their purpose is not fulfilled, then there's no point in living in the first place. So that it would make total sense to take the risk, because it's either ensuring that you don't fulfill your purpose or taking a chance and going towards fulfilling your purpose and getting there faster or getting to a higher state, higher level compared to just sitting there. So taking that in mind, we have to remember that we are all here for a purpose, right? So to say that to look at something from a risk perspective of like an operational standpoint, where you might cease operations or you might lose profits or something like that, that doesn't tackle the purpose and motivation behind things. Risk has to be assessed with the motivation and the purpose, because that's what ultimately matters for that actor. Those are the values that they value. So to ignore that is blindsided at best, and at worst it can cause a whole series of issues that will affect society overall. And you can sort of see that it's very it's sort of like a plague that has or a pandemic that has swept across finance media, because all they focus on is profits and healthy margins, etc., etc. But that has influenced, I feel like, has influenced a lot of other areas of our lives. And that's something that we need to take a look into and consider when we evaluate things. So keep that in mind, and feel free to disagree with me on various points that I've made. These are just ideas that I've had and other things that I've looked into throughout the week. But these are just ideas that hopefully can generate or spark some new ideas with you and facilitate a conversation that is lacking in society. So hopefully that gets you thinking. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate all the support you all have given me. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below in the YouTube video for this podcast. And if you found this episode or this podcast to be insightful, it would mean so much to me if you shared this with your friends and colleagues. All right, stay humble, take care, and I will see you all in the next episode.